The rain was relentless, hammering Seattle's streets like a drumbeat of fate. But inside the coffee shop, time seemed to pause. I watched him, Elliot, the software engineer with a smile that could debug the messiest code, lean closer to my sister, Lila, across the table. My heart twisted, caught in a loop it couldn't escape, as I realized I wasn't just jealous of her, I was jealous of him. I'm Jamie, 28, a graphic designer with a knack for meddling in other people's love lives. Growing up in Seattle's eclectic Fremont neighborhood, I'd always been the one to play matchmaker, pairing friends with the precision of a well-designed algorithm. Lila, my younger sister by 2 years, was my latest project. She was vibrant, with red hair that turned heads and a laugh that could light up Pike Place Market at midnight. Elliot, 30, was the kind of guy you'd write a rom-com about, brilliant, kind, with dark eyes that held secrets behind his wire-rimmed glasses. He'd moved to Seattle a year ago to work at a tech startup, and I'd met him at a coding meetup I'd crashed to network. We'd hit it off instantly, late-night talks about art, tech, and the meaning of life over cheap beer. I thought he'd be perfect for Lila. So why did watching them together feel like a glitch in my soul? The coffee shop, Brew and Muse, was our usual haunt, a cozy spot with mismatched chairs and walls lined with local art. Rain streaked the windows, blurring the neon glow of the city outside. Lila was telling Elliot about her latest photography project, her hands animated, her eyes sparkling. He nodded, attentive, but his gaze kept flickering to me. Just for a second, but enough to make my pulse stutter. I brushed it off, stirring my latte with unnecessary focus. I'd set this up, hadn't I? I'd invited Elliot to meet Lila, convinced they'd click. So why did I feel like I was the one being rewritten? Jamie, Elliot said, his voice low, cutting through Lila's story about a sunrise shoot at Gasworks Park. You're quiet tonight. Everything okay? I forced a grin, the kind I use to charm clients. Just letting you two lovebirds shine. Don't mind me. Lila laughed, tossing her hair. Oh, come on, Jamie. You're the one who said Elliot's my type. Right, Elliot. Elliot's smile was tight, his eyes locking onto mine again. Actually, he said, I'm not sure I'm anyone's type yet. The words hung there, heavy as the rain outside. Lila didn't notice, launching into another story, but I felt them land like a punch. Was he joking? Or was there something in his tone, something meant just for me? I shook my head, telling myself I was reading too much into it. I'd always been good at seeing patterns where there weren't any. But as the night wore on, Elliot's glances grew bolder, and my carefully constructed plan started to unravel. We left the coffee shop around 9. The three of us huddled under my oversized umbrella. Lila linked arms with me, oblivious to the tension coiling in my chest. Elliot walked on my other side, his shoulder brushing mine as we navigated the slick sidewalk. You didn't have to set me up. You know, he said quietly, so Lila wouldn't hear. I was happy just hanging out with you. My breath caught. What's that supposed to mean? I asked, keeping my voice light, but my heart was racing. He didn't answer, just gave me that look again like he was seeing through my code. Straight to the bugs I didn't want anyone to find. We reached the corner where Lila's apartment was, and she hugged us both, promising to text about plans for the weekend. As she disappeared into her building, Elliot and I were left alone, the rain a soft curtain between us and the world. Jamie, he said, stepping closer, his voice barely above a whisper. Can we talk? Not about Lila. About us. I froze, the umbrella tilting, letting rain drip onto my shoulder. Us. I echoed, my voice cracking. There's no us. You're supposed to like her. He laughed, a soft, bitter sound. Yeah, That's what you keep saying. But what if I don't? The street lamp above us flickered, casting shadows across his face. I wanted to run, to debug this moment before it crashed my entire system. But I couldn't move. Because deep down, in the part of me I'd buried under layers of denial, I knew I'd been falling for Elliot since the first time we'd stayed up until 3 a.m. Arguing about whether Star Wars or Star Trek had the better philosophy. And now, standing in the rain, I realized I'd written the wrong script entirely. The next morning, I woke to the sound of rain tapping my apartment window, a rhythm that matched the chaos in my head. Elliot's words from last night, "What if I don't?" looped like a stuck track, each replay tightening the knot in my stomach. I'd spent years building a life where I controlled the narrative. But now I was adrift. No storyboard to guide me. I dragged myself to my desk, a cluttered corner of my Capitol Hill studio apartment, and tried to focus on a freelance projecta logo for a local bakery. But my tablet pen hovered uselessly over the screen, my mind replaying Elliot's dark eyes, the way his voice had softened when he said us. I wasn't ready for this. I'd grown up in a family where love was a straight line, boy meets girl, happily ever after. My parents, high school sweethearts, had drilled that into me. Even Lila, with her free-spirited vibe, dated guys who fit the mold. I'd never questioned my own path until now. My phone buzzed, snapping me out of my spiral. A text from Elliot, "Can we grab coffee? Just you and me. 1 p.m. at Brew and Muse." My fingers hovered over the keyboard, torn between typing sure and pretending I hadn't seen it. I wasn't ready to face him. Not after last night's confession had cracked open something I'd kept locked away. But ignoring him felt like betraying the part of me that wanted answers. I typed back, "See you there." Brew and Muse was quieter in the afternoon, the lunch crowd thinning out. Elliot was already there when I arrived, sitting by the window with a black coffee and a laptop open to some incomprehensible code. He looked up as I approached, his smile hesitant but warm, like he wasn't sure if I'd bolt. I slid into the seat across from him, clutching my iced latte like a lifeline. "Thanks for coming," he said, closing his laptop. "I didn't mean to freak you out last night." "You didn't." I lied, then sighed. "Okay, maybe a little. What you said, about us. What was that about?" He leaned back, running a hand through his hair. "I've been trying to figure that out myself. I moved here to start fresh. You know. New city, new job, new everything. I thought I could just be the guy who codes, hangs out, keeps things simple. But then I met you." My heart did a flip, but I kept my face neutral. "And Lila," I added, testing him. He shook his head. "Lila's great. She's fun, talented, exactly the kind of person I'd want as a friend. But you," he paused, his eyes searching mine. "You're different. You get me. Those nights we spent talking, laughing, arguing about sci-fi. I didn't realize how much I needed that until it was gone." I swallowed hard, the weight of his words sinking in. "Elliot, I'm not. I've never." I trailed off, unable to say it. I'd never considered myself anything but straight. I'd dated women, flirted with women, built my whole identity around being the guy who could charm anyone. But charm didn't explain why my chest ached when Elliot looked at me like that. "I know," he said softly. I wasn't sure either. At first. I've always dated women too. But with you, it's not about labels. It's about how I feel when I'm around you. Like I'm home. The word hit me like a tidal wave. Home. Growing up, home was my parents' craftsman house in Fremont, with its creaky floors and Lila's Polaroids pinned to the fridge. But now, at 28, home felt like something I was still searching for. And maybe, just maybe, Elliot was part of it. Before I could respond, my phone lit up with a call from Lila. I ignored it, but the moment was broken. Elliot glanced at the screen, his expression unreadable. "She's going to want to know how our date went," he said, a hint of amusement in his voice. "Yeah," I muttered, rubbing my neck. "I might have oversold you as her future husband." He laughed, but it didn't reach his eyes. "You're good at that. Selling stories. But maybe it's time you wrote one for yourself." We spent the rest of the afternoon talking, not about Lila or the setup, but about everything else: his childhood in Chicago, my obsession with vintage comic books, the way Seattle's gray skies made us both feel alive. By the time we parted ways, the rain had stopped, leaving the city glistening like a promise. I walked home, my mind a tangle of fear and possibility. Elliot had laid his cards on the table, but I wasn't ready to show mine. Not yet. The next week was a blur of deadlines and denial. I threw myself into work, sketching logos until my eyes burned, hoping to drown out Elliot's voice in my head. But every notification on my phone made my heart jump, hoping it was him. Most of the time, it was Lila, texting me about her latest photography gig or asking if Elliot had mentioned her. I dodged her questions, guilt gnawing at me. I'd set her up with a guy who didn't want her, and now I was the one he wanted. How was I supposed to explain that? Friday night, I found myself at a tech mixer in Belltown, a sleek rooftop bar with views of Puget Sound. Elliot had invited me, saying it'd be good for networking. I went, telling myself it was professional, not personal. But the moment I saw him leaning against the bar in a navy blazer, laughing with a group of coders, I knew I was lying to myself. He spotted me and waved me over, his smile cutting through the crowd like a beacon. "You made it," he said, handing me a beer. "I was starting to think you'd ghost me." "Never," I said, clinking my bottle against his. "Just been busy." He raised an eyebrow, seeing through me. "Sure. Busy avoiding me." I opened my mouth to protest, but he just laughed, steering me toward a quieter corner of the rooftop. The city sparkled below, the Space Needle a silent sentinel against the night sky. We talked for hours, the conversation flowing as easily as it always did. But there was an undercurrent now, a tension that hadn't been there before. Every time his hand brushed mine, I felt a spark, a glitch, a warning. "Jamie," he said finally, his voice serious. "I need to know where you stand. I'm not trying to push you, but I can't keep pretending this is just friendship. Not when I feel this." He gestured between us, and I knew exactly what he meant. The air felt charged, like the moment before a storm. I wanted to say something, anything, but my throat was tight. Instead, I took a step closer, close enough to feel the warmth of his breath. "I don't know what I'm doing," I admitted, "but I don't want to lose this. Whatever it is." His eyes softened, and for a moment, I thought he might kiss me. But then someone called his name, a colleague, waving him back to the group. The moment shattered, and we rejoined the party, pretending nothing had changed. But everything had. The next day, Lila invited me to her place for dinner. I went, dreading the inevitable questions about Elliot. Her apartment was a riot of color, with photos pinned to every wall, her art, her life, her heart on display. She poured me a glass of wine and launched into a story about a client who tried to pay her in artisanal cheese. I laughed, but my mind was elsewhere. "So," she said, setting down her glass, "what's up with Elliot? He's been weirdly quiet. Did I scare him off?" I froze, the wine glass halfway to my lips. "No, he's just busy. Work stuff." She narrowed her eyes. "You're a terrible liar. Jamie, what's going on?" I wanted to tell her, I wanted to spill everything: Elliot's confession, my confusion, the way my world was tilting on its axis. But I couldn't. Not yet. It's nothing, I said, forcing a smile. Just give him time. She didn't buy it, but she let it go, moving on to talk about her next project. I nodded along, but inside, I was drowning. I'd always been the one to fix things, to make everyone else's story work. But my own story was a mess, and I didn't know how to write the next chapter. The turning point came on a rainy Saturday, 2 weeks after the rooftop. Elliot texted me, asking if I wanted to hike at Discovery Park. I hesitated, knowing a hike meant hours alone with him. No distractions. But I said yes, because running from this was starting to feel like running from myself. Discovery Park was a sprawl of green on Seattle's edge, with trails winding through forests and cliffs overlooking the Sound. The rain had eased to a drizzle, and the air smelled of cedar and salt. Elliot wore a waterproof jacket, his glasses fogging slightly as we climbed a muddy trail. I kept my eyes on the path, afraid to meet his gaze. "You're quiet again," he said, stopping to catch his breath. "What's going on in that head of yours?" I laughed, a nervous sound. "Just trying not to slip and die." He grinned, but his eyes were serious. "Jamie, talk to me. I'm not gonna bite." I stopped walking, the damp air clinging to my skin. "I don't know how to do this," I said finally. "I've spent my whole life thinking I had it all figured out. Love, relationships, who I am. And now you're here, and it's like, I don't know who I am anymore." He stepped closer, his expression soft but unflinching. "You're still you. Just maybe a version you haven't met yet." His words hit hard, cracking open a truth I'd been dodging. I'd always seen myself as the guy who had it together, the one who made everyone else's lives better. But maybe I'd been hiding from my own story, too scared to face it. I looked at Elliot, his face open and honest, and something inside me gave way. "Elliot," I said, my voice barely audible over the rustle of leaves, "I think I'm falling for you." He didn't move, didn't speak, just looked at me like I'd handed him the world. Then, slowly, he reached out, his hand brushing mine. It was tentative, like he was giving me a chance to pull away. I didn't. I laced my fingers with his, and for the first time, I felt like I was standing still in a world that wouldn't stop spinning. We didn't kiss. Not then. But we walked back to the trailhead hand in hand, the drizzle washing away the last of my resistance. By the time we reached his car, I was soaked but lighter than I'd felt in years. We drove back to the city in silence, the kind that didn't need words. I knew this was just the beginning, and the road ahead would be messy. But for the first time, I was ready to face it. Telling Lila was the hardest part. I put it off for days, dodging her calls and texts until she showed up at my apartment, armed with takeout from our favorite Thai place. "You're avoiding me," she said, setting the food on my counter. "Spill it, Jamie." I took a deep breath, the smell of pad Thai doing nothing to calm my nerves. "It's about Elliot," I said, my voice shaking. "I didn't set him up with you because I thought you'd be perfect together. I did it because I was trying to ignore how I felt about him." Her eyes widened, chopsticks frozen midair. "Wait. You're saying, you and Elliot?" I nodded, bracing for her reaction. Lila had always been my biggest cheerleader, but this was uncharted territory. I'd never even hinted at feelings for a guy before. What if she didn't get it? What if she hated me for stealing her chance? But Lila just stared at me, then burst out laughing. "Oh my God, Jamie, you're such an idiot." I knew something was up. The way he looked at you at the coffee shop. I thought I was imagining it. "You're not mad?" I asked, stunned. "Mad? No way. I mean, Yeah, I thought Elliot was cute, but I'm not in love with him. You, on the other hand, she grinned, poking me with a chopstick. You're totally gone for him. It's adorable. Relief flooded me, but it came with a new worry. What about mom and dad? They're not exactly open-minded. Lila's smile faded. Yeah, that's going to be tough. But you don't have to tell them yet. Figure out what this is first. You and Elliot deserve that. She was right. I needed to focus on what was happening between us, not what the world might think. That night, I called Elliot and asked him to come over. When he arrived, I didn't waste time with small talk. I pulled him into a hug, my heart pounding as I felt his arms wrap around me. I told Lila. I said into his shoulder. She's cool with it. He pulled back, his eyes searching mine. And you? Are you cool with it? I nodded, a smile breaking through. Yeah. I'm terrified, but I'm in. He kissed me then, soft and tentative, like we were both learning a new language. It was my first kiss with a guy, and it felt like coming home. We spent the night on my couch, talking and laughing, the city's hum a distant backdrop. For the first time, I let myself imagine a future where Theseus was real. The next month was a whirlwind. Elliot and I fell into a rhythm coffee dates, late-night coding sessions where I'd sketch while he debugged, hikes through the Cascades when we needed to escape the city. Every moment with him felt like a gift, but there was a shadow over it, my parents. I hadn't told them, and the longer I waited, the heavier it felt. One Sunday, I drove to Fremont for family dinner, my stomach in knots. My parents' house was a time capsule, same floral curtains, same faded photos on the mantle. Lila was there, helping mom chop vegetables while dad grilled me about my freelance work. Everything was normal, too normal, and I felt like a fraud. After dinner, Lila pulled me aside. You gotta tell them soon, she whispered. They're starting to ask why you're so distracted. I know, I said, my voice tight. I just need time. But time ran out the next day. Elliot and I were at Pike Place, tossing coins at the bronze pig statue, when my mom called. Jamie, why didn't you tell us you're dating someone? She said, her voice bright. Lila mentioned a special someone. Bring her to dinner next week. I froze, Elliot's hand warm in mine. It's not a her, I said, my voice barely audible. The line went silent. Then, what do you mean? I took a deep breath, Elliot's steady gaze giving me courage. I'm dating Elliot. He's a guy, and I really care about him. More silence. Then my mom's voice, strained. We'll talk about this later. She hung up, and I felt like the ground had dropped out from under me. Elliot squeezed my hand. You okay? No, I admitted. But I will be. That night, I went to Lila's, needing her perspective. She poured me a drink and listened as I spilled everything me fear. My guilt. My hope. They'll come around, she said. They love you. It's just going to take time. I wanted to believe her, but the doubt lingered. Elliot was worth it. I knew that. But losing my family's approval was a price I hadn't prepared for. The fallout came fast. My mom called the next day, her voice tight with questions I didn't know how to answer. Is this a phase? She asked. You've always liked girls. My dad was worse silent, his disappointment louder than words. I tried to explain, to tell them about Elliot, about how he made me feel alive in a way I never had. But they weren't ready to hear it. I threw myself into work and Elliot, avoiding their calls. He was my anchor, his quiet strength keeping me grounded. One night, at his apartment in Queen Anne, we cooked dinner together badly, burning the pasta but laughing through it. As we sat on his balcony, the city lights stretching before us, he took my hand. "I'm proud of you," he said, "for telling them, for being you." I leaned against him, the weight of the past week easing. What if they never come around? Then we make our own family, he said simply. You, me, Lila, the people who matter. His words carried me through the next weeks, but the strain with my parents didn't ease. Lila tried to mediate, inviting them to her art show and casually mentioning Elliot. They came, but their smiles were forced, their questions about him polite but distant. I felt like I was losing a piece of myself, but Elliot's presence reminded me I was gaining something too. One night, after a long day, we went to Cary Park, the city skyline glittering below. "I love you," I said, the words slipping out before I could stop them. Elliot's eyes widened, then softened. "I love you too," he said, pulling me close. We kissed under the stars, the city a witness to our promise. It wasn't a solution to everything, but it was enough. Months later, spring painted Seattle in shades of green, and I was starting to feel whole again. Elliot and I were building a life small, messy, but ours. We'd moved in together, a tiny apartment in Capitol Hill filled with my sketches and his coding books. Lila was our biggest supporter, her photos now including shots of us, candid and real. My parents were still distant, but there were cracks in their resistance. Mom started asking about Elliot, tentative questions about his job, his family. Dad sent me a text one day, just a photo of the Fremont Troll, where we'd played as kids. It wasn't much, but it was a start. One evening, Elliot and I hosted a dinner at our place. Lila came, along with a few friends from the tech mixer. The table was crowded, the food slightly better than our pasta disaster. As we laughed and argued about the best coffee in Seattle, I looked around and realized this was it, me home. My family. My story. Later, as Elliot and I cleaned up, he wrapped his arms around me. "You okay?" he asked, his voice soft. "Better than okay," I said, kissing him. "I tried setting you up with my sister, but I'm so glad you wanted me." He laughed, his eyes bright. "Always will." The rain started again outside, a gentle rhythm that felt like a blessing. I'd spent so long trying to write everyone else's happy ending, but this one year's was the one that mattered most. It wasn't perfect, but it was real, and that was enough.